it's time for the final regular season game for the Lions this year before the playoff game next week. And before we start, Minnesota, acknowledge your new reigning, defending, undisputed NFC North heavyweight champions of the world, the brand new Detroit Lions. But yeah, and also for that billboard that's now been located in Detroit that says Decker reported, I have nothing to do with that sign. I have nothing to do with it. Like, do you know how much it costs to rent a billboard in Detroit? I don't got that kind of goddamn money, especially in this fucking economy. But yeah, that is pretty funny too. There's also the one with the Lions record crossed out to show what it should really be. Yeah, it should be 12-4, but yeah. But yeah, Brad Allen is a fucking dipshit. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. So, of course, Lions facing the Vikings this week as Minnesota comes to town. And Minnesota's season, of course, on the line as this game has playoff implications for Minnesota. For Detroit, this game honestly means nothing for Detroit. It's a game that honestly doesn't matter. Like, the only real thing that matters is if Detroit wants Minnesota to have a shot at the playoffs or not, or like, really, Detroit, the only thing Detroit's playing for in this game is not only bragging rights, but a shot to end Minnesota's season. So, of course, on the points line for this game, the point spread currently has Detroit favored in this game by 3 points. Of course, in Minnesota, they lead the all-time series over Detroit 80-42-2. But Detroit has won now the last, 2 meetings against Minnesota, including 3 of the last 5 against Minnesota, including beating Minnesota 2 weeks ago in Minnesota to clinch the NFC North heavyweight title. And don't worry, there's a third belt coming soon because I got the Michigan sweater on because of Michigan beating Alabama in the Rose Bowl. So now there will be a third belt coming on. And who knows, maybe after next Monday, if Michigan wins the Natty against Washington, maybe it comes C-Rad 4 belts. Because, like I said, it's trophy hunting season. Time to add some gold to the shoulders. But yeah, anyway, though, back to the game, though. Minnesota this year, they're 5-3 on the road this year. Detroit is 5-2 at home. And this is going to be a warm-up game for Detroit. As, of course, next week, Detroit will be hosting their first ever road playoff game. I mean, their home playoff game in 30 years and the first one ever at Ford Field. And that game will more than likely not involve the Vikings. Because, yeah, even though Minnesota pretty much is eliminated, they still mathematically have a shot. But Minnesota needs a lot of help to have a chance at even making the playoffs. So, of course, up for the Minnesota's key players, I went over this 2 weeks ago. And the injury report is the same injury report I had from 2 weeks ago. Only differences, I think, on it is that, TJ Hawkinson is now out for the season after he tore his ACL and MCL against the Lions 2 weeks ago. And Byron Murphy is questionable for this game with a knee injury. Other than that, it's about effectively the same. Coaching staff is the same. The only real difference is the rankings. The offense is now 11th. They're 6th in the passing game, but their running game is so terrible as they're 27th running the ball. The defense is about the same. They're 14th ranked defense. They're 18th against the pass, and they're now 9th against the run. So they went from like a top 5 unit against the run to now a top 10. They're like borderline top 10. So yeah, obviously, the keys to winning this game is I think you just do what you did 2 weeks ago. Do what worked 2 weeks ago. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I think you do that plan 2 weeks ago. I mean, Cincinnati laid out the blueprint to beat the Vikings, and the Lions have used it to their advantage. And so did the Packers a week at last Sunday. So yeah, you effectively do that. Like this Minnesota defense, like Minnesota's shown they're not that strong. And honestly, I'm not 100% sure who the Minnesota starting QB is. Because Darren Hall looked like complete ass. Like, I'll be honest, I think the rumors I've been hearing is that Minnesota's starting QB this week is supposed to be Nick Mullins. It's either Mullins or Josh Dobbs. I don't think it'll be Dobbs. I think it's Mullins. Since Mullins came in to finish the game against the Packers last week. So I think Mullins will be the starter for Minnesota. So I think obviously get pressure to Mullins. Find a way to take Jefferson out of the game. And finally, also win the turnover battle, because, of course, the Lions, big reason the Lions won 2 weeks ago was because of turnovers, as they forced Mullins to throw 4 interceptions. So they need to, especially with Mullins trying to play fuck the ball. So, yeah. And honestly, even though Mullins threw up a 411 yards in that game 2 weeks ago, a lot of those throws Mullins completed to lead to that many yards was because a lot of them deep shot 50-50 balls, which could have gone Detroit's way, but Detroit got the bad end of the deal. See, I think in terms of 50-50 balls, maybe just hope and pray that Detroit has better luck on it than they did 2 weeks ago. I think if they, honestly, I'm not too concerned about this game. Plus, Minnesota needs a lot. Minnesota, they need to win this game to have a shot at making the playoffs. Because for Minnesota to make it in, they need a win, and they need Green Bay to lose to Chicago. Then they need Seattle to lose to Arizona. And then they need either New Orleans to lose to Atlanta, or they need Tampa Bay to lose to Carolina. I'll tell you right now, Tampa Bay losing to Carolina is not happening. That one ain't happening. And honestly, I don't think Seattle loses to Arizona either. But yeah, Minnesota needs a lot of miracles to have even remotely a chance. So they need a win and then a bunch of shit to go their way. But yeah, honestly, and of course, Minnesota fans the last couple weeks have done everything they can to discredit the Lions instead of congratulate them and say the Lions earned the NFC North title fair and square because of what everyone said about Minnesota a year ago. I mean, it's the fucking truth. You were a fake paper and bakey NFC North champion. Everyone knows last year the Lions were the real champs of the NFC North last year. And this year the Lions have proved it by even beating you in your own house during your little whiteout event. But yeah, and this week the Lions have a chance to sweep the Vikings for the first time since 2016. Lions haven't had a chance at this in God knows how long. But yeah. And also, if Minnesota loses and Chicago wins, then Minnesota could end up in the basement and finish last in the NFC North. So Minnesota's playing also to not end up in the basement. But yeah, I'm confident in this game. Honestly, I think the Lions are probably gonna use a game plan from 2 weeks ago. Plus, the Lions got a lot of motion to play with after the Saturday night debacle when the Lions got fucked over by ref ball in Dallas. So yeah, the Lions got a lot of anger, and I honestly feel like Detroit's going to take it out on Minnesota. I'll be honest, I will not be surprised. I will not be surprised if Detroit throws 40 points on Minnesota in this game. Do I think they will? Probably not. I think Minnesota's going to hang with it because Minnesota has a lot to play for in this game. I think Detroit will win this game. I've got the same score as I predicted 2 weeks ago. I got Detroit 22-19. I think Lions cover the spread. I have them by 3. So I'm taking the Lions in this game plus the points. So, yeah, give me Detroit by 3 in this one. I think Minnesota's going to play Detroit hard because plus Minnesota's a lot different team on the road. Their only 2 wins against NFC North teams this year have come on the road. They won in Chicago, and then they won in Green Bay, and then they proceed to lose all 3 games at home against Detroit, Green Bay, and Chicago, respectively. So, yeah, I think Detroit wins. I think Detroit ends Minnesota's season. And then after this game, we're going to hear what kind of excuses Minnesota fans are going to pull this time. Because 2 weeks ago, Minnesota said, Detroit only won the division because, Kirk Cousins was out and Minnesota has all the injuries. Because Minnesota has the worst luck by any team in the league. And Minnesota has dealing with all the injuries. Minnesota fans, do the One Pride a favor. In fact, do the One Pride, do the Pack, and do Bear Down all a favor, and shut your bitch asses up. You're the only team that deals with injuries? Bitch, please. Every team deals with injuries. It's part of the fucking game. And honestly, that excuse 2 weeks ago, it's too late in the season to pull the injuries card excuse. At this point in the year, it's too late to pull that excuse card. You got what you got. It's next man step up or step aside. Your team has chosen step aside. Ain't that a bitch? But yeah, Minnesota fans just can't accept that everything the Lions fan base said about Minnesota last year ended up being the truth. and they can't accept it, and it seats them inside. That the team that called them out for who they were last year, which was a fake paper champion, NFC North champion, now holds the NFC North Championship. And will be playing a home playoff game. And honestly, Minnesota, you're going to be dealing with a very hostile One Pride crowd. You can thank that useless moron Brad Allen for that. Because, oh boy, you're entering a fucking sea of proverbial sharks this Sunday. Who knows? Maybe the Lions fan base will do something that you didn't think would be possible. Because I know if Fatu Melifonwu was public enemy number 1 in Minnesota for mocking the skull chant. Oh, you think that's bad? Oh, just imagine if the Lions fan base Sunday does the fucking skull chant to mock Minnesota. I mean, we saw Detroit a couple weeks ago troll Russell Wilson by playing Future songs. And that really affected Russell Wilson. Who knows, maybe Detroit fans will do the skull chant to fuck up Minnesota on offense. Be funny if they did do that. But yeah, honestly, Minnesota's just playing the victim card for 2 weeks ago. And honestly, it's just kind of funny to laugh at them for it and just cry about it. And honestly, Minnesota, you can cry to my NFC North heavyweight title. But yeah. And of course, in terms of all that stuff with Brad Allen, it's not surprising Brad Allen's reffing another crucial primetime game with the Steelers. Because that's the NFL for you. NFL doesn't want to hold anybody accountable. Because nothing in the NFL is ever their fault. Everything else the NFL's done, nothing's ever their fault. It's always somebody else. It's not surprising the NFL's trying to put the blame on Detroit for that whole thing in Dallas Saturday when it was really Brad Allen for fucking up the call, for fucking up who was eligible. Because nothing is ever the NFL's fault. It's always somebody else's because the NFL is this great organization that can never do any wrong. And it don't matter if people hate the sport or love it or think it's overrated or not. People are going to watch anyway, and NFL is going to print money regardless. Because we're all fucking addicted to it. But yeah, honestly, and with the Lions playing their starters Sunday, that means one thing. Detroit's playing to end Minnesota season. And with how pissed off the team was out over Saturday night, you know this team is going to be doing everything they can to beat the shit, to take their anger out on Minnesota. And odds are, more than likely, that won't be the only time we see Dallas this year, because Detroit's probably facing Dallas in the playoffs. Probably in the second round. Plus, also, Detroit has an outside shot at being the number 2 seed in the NFC. For Detroit to be the 2 seed in the NFC, they need a win, and they need Dallas and Philadelphia to both lose. And I'll be honest, I don't see Dallas or Philadelphia losing this week. I think Philadelphia beats the Giants, and I think Dallas beats the Commanders. So, yeah, I think Detroit is locked in the 3 seed, but it'll be interesting to see. But if Detroit stays at 3, they're guaranteed to face either the Rams or the Packers. All depends on what happens with the Rams 49ers and Packers Bears game. But yeah, honestly, regardless, if it's the Packers or Rams, it don't matter to me. I'm confident Detroit could beat either of those teams next weekend at Detroit. Especially if it's Stafford and the Rams. Definitely if it's the Packers and we put an end to this whole Jordan Love debacle once and for all. Honestly, I don't care who it is. Whoever it is, bring them to Detroit. And we'll put the final nail in their coffins. But anyway, let's go get this win. And fuck Brad Allen. And let's go get this W. Go Lions. And honestly, Minnesota fans, you better have your excuses ready Sunday, because I want to hear every last single one of them, like the victim-made bitches that you are. Because if my late father was still here, he would say to me, Conrad, my boy, what are these purple pussy fuckwads complaining about now? And the whole thing about Minnesota saying, Detroit only won a division because Kirk Cousins went down. Let me throw a little truth out here for you, Minnesota fans. You had all season, you had 15 games because Detroit clinched the division with 2 weeks early. But anyway, Minnesota, you had 17 games to get as far ahead of Detroit in the standings as humanly possible. Even the games that Kirk Cousins did play. You had all season to get as far ahead of Detroit in the standings as possible and not put yourselves in a position like that. And you all failed to take advantage for it. But of course, Minnesota, keep pulling every fucking excuse you have in the book there is. Your salt is fucking delicious to enjoy with my title. But yeah. And Minnesota, get a good long look at this NFC North title. Because this is the closest you're going to get to this title for the next 10 years. Go Lions!